We are from Group 2. My name is Rubarkis.
I'm Adelina.
I'm Husna.
And I'm Syuhada.
And let's enjoy our video. Bye.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Adelina binti Jamil. My metric number is 2311746. So I'm going to introduce scientism. Scientism is a philosophy of knowledge that believe scientific knowledge is a form how knowledge is acquired. So for the benefits of scientism is people will know the bad and good, and people will increase their knowledge in scientism, ideology, and people will know that Allah has created all the creation, and all the creation is not created naturally.
My name is Nur Syuhada binti Abdullah with metric number 2313782, and I will talk about concept of scientism and also the historical development. So for the concept of scientism is the truth can only be revealed by science or scientific knowledge. As for the historical development, the founder of scientism is Auguste Comte. The period of this ideology is 19th till 20th century. Factors that lead to the development is the advancement of science and technology.
Okay, so the first principle or belief of the scientism is objectivity, which is the objectivity of scientism. It sometimes also can lead to an oversimplification or dismissal of other form of knowledge such as subjective experience or cultural insight, which also may lead to understanding reality. But ultimately, this objectivity of scientism is also still ongoing debate between the philosophy and philosophy of science. For the second belief or principle that scientism use is positivism, which is founded by Auguste Comte, and he stated this positivism with three steps, which is first is by theology, second is by abstract and metaphysics, and third is scientific. And this kind of ideology, which is positivism, they use this positivism by understanding how the thing happen in this world, how the brain function, for example, how the man creates, and because all people do not know about this kind of process, so the scientists that come from scientism use this kind of process, use this kind of ideology to include in this process, and until they make the knowledge of the philosophical and the morality fade away. So in this 20th century, they converted this kind of ideology, which is positivism, to logical positivism, or we call it as Vienna Circle, which is there's not much different at all. And there's one figure which is named as Karl Popper said that everything that cannot be proved in this world will be rejected. Last but not least, the third principle of belief of scientism is reductionism, which is reductionism is the belief that complex phenomena can be explained by simplifying them to be simpler. So scientific or a philosophical situation can assert the natural science method, including the observation and experimentation, which is the only valid way to understand this world. So this approach often overlooks the nuances and complexity of social, psychological, and philosophical phenomena.
Scientism ideology thus give positive impact in human life by increasing the quality of human life due to the advanced technology and development of scientific research. Okay. So next, it also can simplify work and save time. In this contemporary era, scientism application or activities are widely used in most modern countries in this world. For example, in the medical field, it is a scientific research about anatomy and research treatment of disease. Okay, next, in engineering field, it is a scientific study of design, maintenance, and manufacturing machine, system, and tools. However, scientism ideology does also give negative impact to human life. As we know, scientism is an extreme ideology proclaiming the valid source of knowledge is only science. Consequently, it leads to many negative impacts. So the firstly is unemployment. So advanced technology change manual words to auto words. For example, the artificial intelligence (AI) is very common nowadays. Secondly is the unlimited internet. The usage of internet is being widely used and causing the misuse of internet and keep increasing the crime of data thief. The lastly is morality and religious objection. Moral and religious aspect is hard to be proved with scientific method because both of them is in mathematical form.
So as for the strength of scientism, science is a huge success. With a bit help of science and technology, we're gonna know about how it was created, how the sun and moon circulation, and also fingerprint. It's also aligned with the relation in the Surah Al-Anbiya verse 33, which Allah mentioned, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وهو الذي خلق الليل والنهار والشمس والقمر كل في فلك يسبحون. And He is the one who created the day and the night, the sun and the moon, and each traveling in an orbit. Thank you.
Okay, for the shortcoming, I'm not too agree with the statement that science is the source of all the knowledge. Science can explain the world because Allah said that Al-Quran is the main guidance for all the humankind. So as mentioned in Al-Quran, Surah An-Nam, verse number 1 until 2. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tasin. Tilka ayatul Qur'ani wa kitabim mubin. Hudan wa bushra lil mu'min. Tasin. These are the verse of the Quran, the clear book. It is a guide and good news for the believer. For the conclusion, I will say everything has a pro and con, and we have to differentiate the bad and the good. So we also have to thank to the scientific knowledge because with that knowledge, all the curiosity will answer. And if we use scientific knowledge, we have to relate with Islam. So that we know Allah is the best creator. That's all. Thank you.
So hi, assalamualaikum guys. So today I will do a podcast about to discuss what are the scientism. So I have invited 3 students of IIM, which is first I will introduce myself first.
Hello everyone, my name is Nur binti Abdullah and I'm from Akon.
My name is Alina binti Jamil and I'm from KNMS.
Okay, hi, my name is Nanda Tisha and I'm from Jelas.
So you guys know what it is, like a simple question. So of course we talk about scientism, and the first thing we want to know is the meaning of the scientism. And I will ask you 2 questions. First, what are the exact meaning of the exact definition of scientism, and what are the differences between scientism and Islamic worldview?
Okay, for the first question, what is the meaning of scientism? It is an ideology that believes in the power scientific knowledge and technique. Whereas what makes the difference, scientism and Islamic worldview is scientism is solely covers on science and scientific research, whereas the Islamic worldview covers all aspects, including hereafter.
So science not focus on the hereafter?
Yes, true, because it's solely about experiment, right? There is no experiment that you want to do with hereafter.
Because they cannot go to the hereafter.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So can I add something?
Sure.
So you know right that the Muslim are the resources of Muslim, which is Quran and Islam. So what are the resource that scientism use?
Okay, it's only experiment.
Experiment only.
Yes.
So what are the methods of the experiments?
There is a few steps for the scientists to conduct experiment. So first they will collect information, then they will produce the data and hypothesis. And the most crucial part is they will conduct the experiment. So if the experiment result is aligned with the hypothesis, then they will accept and believe, and also make it to scientific law, and people will believe to what the result is. Whereas if the test result is vice versa, then they will reject it totally.
So, but before they collect the data, they will identify the problem first, right? So, we will proceed the next question, which is I will ask Ms. Husna, which is the question is what are the who are the early and the latest figures of the scientism that we should know?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moderator. Okay, for the early figures of scientism, such as Galileo Galilei, Francis Bacon, and Maurice Descartes. Meanwhile, for the latest figures, and also known as New Atheism, is Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris.
Oh, okay. The new atheism,
Yes,
the latest one.
the latest figures.
So, do you think that this kind of people can influence our people, which is Muslim, to believe this kind of ideology, which is scientism?
Yes, surely. Because people know these people are far away from practicing the true belief of Islam. So they tend to believe the scientists. They also I want to add, because the Richard Dawkins, we know he is one of popular scientists. So of course he in higher education. So people tend to
Yeah, of course.
get
Because
influenced by him.
yeah, because people nowadays look at the media and just like believe. The most viral people, they will tend to believe. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so guys, we have reached the final question, which is I will ask Miss Alina, right? So my final question before I end this podcast, as Miss Husna said, she agreed that this kind of ideology, scientism, can impact the Muslim. So what kind of implications that Muslim will feel if they believe they are obsessed with this kind of ideology, scientism?
Okay, thank you for the question. Firstly, scientism state that scientism only the way to acquire knowledge. So scientism would be very dangerous if it dismiss other form of knowledge to acquire knowledge and wisdom. So it will lead to limited the understanding of the world. So it is important to recognize the other value of perspective and knowledge to have a better understanding about the world.
Okay, do you get any kind of
For the Muslim, if Muslim are too obsessed with the scientism, so it will ruin their life.
real life?
Yes, because scientism only use 5 sense to prove something. Yes, for example, if they cannot see God, they don't believe in God.
Do not believe at all.
Yes.
Even like Christian or Muslim, they do not believe that God exists. Like atheism, right?
Yeah. Okay, so other example is when they are too obsessed with scientism, which is they too depend on the technology, they will fulfill their desire to to make themselves satisfied. For example, maybe transgender.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
This kind of you said they want to fulfill their desire to satisfy themselves. This is Western ideology, right?
Yes.
So like scientism is under the Western ideology.
Yes, can be. Like Husna said just now, if Islamic worldview in Muslim are high, then they will save from the other ideology. And if their worldview, Islamic worldview less, then they will fall into the other ideology that make them lost. So they will do anything without care about the prohibition of Allah.
Okay, so that's all, guys. For in a nutshell, in conclusion, I will conclude that this kind of ideology cannot be accepted at all, right? Because it is too obsessed with the experiment, which is we will neglect our purpose in life, which is in the Surah Al-Baqarah. We said Allah said that our purpose in life is to be Abi and Hanifah, right? So when our people tend to believe the scientism, they will forget all of that. They will fulfill their desire, they will satisfy themselves, will be a transgender and so on. Also, like a normal person, they will like nowadays people. There are so many people who not pray. That's the biggest sin actually. But we just like look like it's a just small matter, right? But that's just that's a example of they forget about their purpose in life. So we need to be careful of what we see in the media social. We cannot believe the statement that came from the Bible people or the latest people like the Scientism. The only resource that we use is Al-Quran and Sunnah. So whatever we want to do in this world, we must based on the Al-Quran and Sunnah, and we must have taqwa. We have to know and feel that Allah is always sees, watch us. So that's all from us. So I would like to thank all of you guys because join my podcast. So and I'm sorry because take your time for a while. So bye guys.
Okay.
Bye.
One of the biggest challenges today is to figure out in the contemporary world with Google and all this information, like what's true? How do I figure that out? How do I assess information? Many people would argue, well, you know what? Science tells us the truth. Those are the facts and everything else is sort of opinion or belief or philosophy. That's not true. It turns out that there's a big difference between science as a methodology and scientism. When you say, here's a bunch of data or an organism or something, I'm going to test the hypothesis, and given the data, we either support it or refute it. That's science as a method. But a lot of people who call themselves scientists, they go beyond that method and they say, okay, well, here's the truth. There are many scientists, for example, who would say, there is no God. Okay, that's fine, but that's not a scientifically testable hypothesis. So why are you saying that? And the reason they say that is because they have a faith system of their own. So it's really important that we divide out the science, that is, the replicable hypothesis testing, historical analyses of data and the world, from the opinions of people who do that stuff. So I frequently argue that humans are messy, complicated, and not so simple. I also argue that the way in which we think about science and practice evolutionary biology is influenced by racism, sexism, and historical, economic, and political frames. Because I make those cases, people say that, oh, I'm not doing science, I'm doing politics. What I try to do is say, okay, what's the topic you're arguing about? Let's do biology. Let's do anthropology. Let's do culture. Let's do ethnography. What is the data? What do we know? And this is something that's going on in the science community right now, and it's an incredibly exciting time because people are pushing back against this whole idea that we already know about sex, that we already know about human variation, that we already know how things work. So, for example, when I argue that the binary, male-female, is not the best way to characterize humans, I am arguing that the biological dynamics and variation in human bodies is complicated and isn't always representative of this binary characterization, that there's more going on, and that understanding that more is central to doing a better job of understanding the human. Now, that's more complicated, and it goes against cultural norms. Everyone knows there's a right way to be a male and a female. I'm like, well, what about people who aren't male or female? What about senses of identity and gender and history and culture and politics and reality of biological dynamism? We either deal with the 100% of the problem and not just be happy to explain 80%, or we admit what we're doing. My argument is the data that cooperation, coordination, creativity, imagination are central in understanding the human, and that reductive approaches, either biological or cultural, are not going to get us sufficient answers. One of the most important things, I think, in the contemporary practice of science is diversifying the voices, the bodies, the experiences, and the modes of doing science. The more diverse group of humans that we have doing that, the better opportunities we have to get different perspectives, different views, different understandings, to get a more comprehensive picture of the world we find ourselves in. I think the world is complex and messy, and evolutionary biology and human evolution demonstrates that. However, I am very much struck by the fact that we are cooperative, we're collaborative, were creative. That individualistic, competition-based, or gene-based reductionist approaches don't do the best job of categorizing science in general and humans in particular, and therefore, we need to take a holistic and, I would say, generous approach to thinking about human biology, human history, human culture, and human evolution. Science is always done by humans, and humans are always messy, cultural, biased, believing creatures. And so we need to have the skill set and the collaboration to look at the science and understand it not just via the scientist, but in its own right.